Hello, everyone, and welcome to AWE Nite Florence. AWE Nite is a great series of events that happen in all parts of the world. We are the one happening in Italy, in Florence, but really it spans all the various continents. And it is part of AWE, which is one of the most important events for XR, and it has 3 chapters. And upcoming one is the one this summer from June 16 to 18 in Long Beach, California. We all can't wait to go there. And there are a lot of opportunities to be involved in the AWE ecosystem, both at the event, which allow people from all the different fields, from gaming to enterprise, art, to attend and exhibit there, but also to the whole AWE ecosystem. So there is also a great discount, 10% off for AWS if you use that code. So use that QR code, join AWE, we can meet there this summer. And now, after this presentation, let me welcome on stage the main host of AWE Nite Florence, Cecilia Lascialfari. Hello, Cecilia.
Hi, welcome to AWE Nite Florence, and thank you, Antony, for the presentation. So, I want to tell you a short story about the evolution of glasses. Where did human vision tech start? It's said that Seneca was the first to suggest that glass spheres or balls filled with water could be used to magnify images. And it's said that Nero, the Roman emperor, used a green stone, probably an emerald, through which he looked at people and things magnified. And the Arab physicist and astronomer Ibn al-Haytham suggests in his book of optics that a pair of polished lenses could help those suffering from visual impairments. And it was the Amanuensis monks who were the first to design and construct pieces of glass shaped to magnify the details of illuminated manuscripts. In the 13th centuries, on the island of Murano in Venice in Italy, master glassmakers known as Cristallari perfected clear crystal production. Their knowledge was jealously guarded and so valuable that it was legally protected. Innovation was power. Vision was power. The formulas were secret, and artisans were forbidden to leave the island. Anyone who broke the rules risked to death penalty. There, the first glasses were created. Convex lenses mounted in wooden frames held in front of the eyes. No temples, no bridge as we know it today. Just a simple but revolutionary idea: enhance human vision. One of the earliest visual representation of glasses appears in a fresco by the Italian artist Tommaso da Modena, and Galileo Galilei in Florence, using a telescope and its lenses, revealed something humanity had never seen before: a universe far more complex than anyone imagined. And then Benjamin Franklin in the US introduced the bifocal lenses, an early example of solving multiple problems with a single wearable device. Even then, glasses were a symbol of intelligence, of learning, and of extended perception. Over the centuries, those early devices evolved, and by the 18th century, glasses took the form we recognize today. Futurists are rarely understood at the beginning. They are questioned, challenged, and something rejected. Only later does the world realize that they were simple seeing further. Today, we stand a similar moment. Smart glasses are no longer just tools to correct vision. They are becoming computing platforms. They layer digital intelligence onto the physical world. They connect AR and AI directly to our perception. From Murano's crystal lenses to AI-powered spatial computing, the mission has remained the same: extended human perception and transforming our experience of the world. And now I'm honored to introduce our incredible speakers, Nicole Lazzaro, Sofia Domeniconi, and AVI BAR-ZEEV, who will guide us into the future of smart glasses, artificial intelligence, and augmented reality. Welcome, everyone, and please, Antony, take the stage.
Thank you, Cecilia. So I'm very excited to bring on stage NICOLE LAZZARO, which is a person I personally esteem a lot in our field. She's the president and founder of XEO Player and XEO Design. She's an XR Hall of Famer in AWE for design, language, and spatial audio innovation. Her speech is entitled Making Magical Mixed Reality, which sounds very exciting. Welcome, Nicole. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, and lovely to be here, even virtually. It would be great. Someday I need to come back to Florence. I think that would be awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I'd like to get started. So let's do this. And can everybody see my screen? All right. Great. So this is a talk I'm giving called Magical Mixed Reality. And for those of you who I haven't met, I'm Nicole Lazzaro, and I am the 30-year plus year game industry veteran. I'm the lead designer and engineer for this game called Follow the White Rabbit. Among other things, I designed the first iPhone game. And as Tony mentioned, I'm also in the XR Hall of Fame for design language and spatial audio. We're going to talk a lot about this talk comes from two things. One, the use of design language for XR, so the evolving new types of design that we can do now only in XR. And also the lessons learned from my game called Follow the White Rabbit, which is a game about a magician whose magic one day suddenly works, and the rabbit disappears in the middle of performance. And to make matters worse, the rabbit was wearing a priceless diamond bracelet borrowed from the audience, and so now everyone wants to follow the white rabbit. I'm also known for creating the model, the 4 keys to fun, and we're going to apply that today. I did an emotion measurement of people's faces while they played games, and created this model of how do actions that players take in games create the emotions that they feel. So how do we, to what we're doing now with Follow the White Rabbit, which is about a magician, to what everybody in the audience here today is doing, is how do we use technology to create magical moments? What is it that these magicians do that makes us so spellbound, right? What is it? How do they create the feelings of curiosity, wonder, and surprise? In the virtual world, I could pull a 747, an animated 747 out of a virtual hat. That's just because it's all virtual, right? And, the users and players are kind of onto us there. And so it wouldn't feel magical. So we need to take a step lower, like look at the craft around the tricks that magicians perform, and what lessons can we learn from those to create more emotional engagement and creating more emotional engagement and experiences that people want to play, and use again and again. So I'm going to cover here one of 3 tricks that magicians use and apply it to VR and AR glasses. Hopefully we'll see you in Long Beach for AWE for more. And so let's get started. So if you think about a magician, what do? They say the first thing they do is they establish the frame. This is an empty box. This box is empty. And then they'll open it up, they'll rotate it around, they'll bang on all the sides, clearly an empty box. This is reality. This is the way the world works. This is what happened. This is real. If they're doing a trick with eggs, they'll drop one and clearly crack. It splats on the stage. Clearly, these are real eggs that the magician is handling. And then the second part of the act is that, of course, ta-da, something came out of that empty box, right? And what they did is in that ta-da moment, that feeling of wonder and, the feeling of wonder and mystery and surprise, is that the frame that you established in the first part breaks in the second part of the trick. So you do the impossible, and that has the audience reinterpreting what they saw before. And that's what creates a big thing of what creates surprise and wonder. There are many more things that magicians do, but we're going to just talk about this establishing frame and breaking the frame. It's used in other entertainment industries as well. For those who may have seen Wake Up Dead Man, it's the third Knives Out movie. I think it's the best of the series. We can debate about that. But what happened in this one in particular is that the screenwriter and director, Rian Johnson, is a friend of this actor who's also a magician named Ricky Jay. And here we see a poster to Ricky Jay, a magician's poster in the Devil's Bar inside Knives Out. These are just super light spoilers, nothing really too critical. But it goes further because Ryan is also taking a lot of magician stagecraft into the movie itself. And I'm using this as an example to think about, as a metaphor, to think about like, how could we bring magical techniques into what we do today? My very first project was magic, how to teach magic. It taught magic on CDI, this technology that came before CD-ROMs. And then everything I've worked on since, it's all about like, how do we use all this technology to create this illusion, this feeling of performing magic, because it's not real, right? What we're doing is not real. It's just, pixels on the screen, ones and zeros up in the cell tower. It's not really real. But anyway, so how does Rian Johnson do it? Well, at the beginning, he establishes the frame in this altar scene. This is where the body is found. This is where this is where the murder happens. And what does he do? The first thing the detective does is he bangs on all the walls. It says Rock of Gibraltar. You can see the detailing here. This is clearly made out of concrete with wooden planking. The set designers designed it this way to give you the sense of this box is empty, this box is solid. And that's what makes a murder that could happen in there seem completely impossible. Knife throwing robots and all that. It's just there's no way that it could work. There's no way it could happen. But by establishing the frame first, it makes the feeling seem more impossible and feel more wondrous, more magical. He does it again in the autopsy scene. So you have the cadaver here. This is the dead man, and the detective goes bouncy with his fingers, poke, and the cadaver is jiggling. It's almost uncomfortable. And then he says, "Flip the meat," and the attendants, flip the corpse over, and that causes the priest to lose it and leave the scene. But for our purposes, this man is dead, right? The detective establishes for the audience and for the priest, this person is dead, which then makes the later scene where the corpse is not where it was supposed to be. A person can't just rise from the dead. There's obviously some Scooby-Doo stuff going on here, says the police officer. And so what we think about in the design of these two scenes, which happen, they're spaced out in the movie, causes you to say, or is he, the audience? And of course, all the characters too. Because we establish that frame in the beginning, that it's really clear that this person is dead, you're then going, wow, that fact is that not true? And that creates more emotion. So if we hadn't had the autopsy scene, or the autopsy scene had been done a different way, it wouldn't have been as impactful. But because we clearly said, this is the way the world works. It was a knife, and this is the body. It's gone. And then when we see here later on, the body's not where it should be, then there's something different about that. So we can use this sort of thing in virtual as well. So this is a scene from Follow the White Rabbit from our game. This is in the VR portion of the game. So I established you can look around this room, this virtual room, and everything happens as it should. But then we have this teapot. And so everything is behaving normally until it doesn't. And so this teapot will just sit in the air spinning, frozen, as long as you look at it. And it's part of a puzzle, which is, goes into more of the game mechanic. But the idea is that it's contrast to the frame of like a normal kind of cafe scene. makes it feel more magical and wonder. Just one example of several things that happen, in that room. Another example would be at the beginning of the game, we establish the player's size. So you can imagine, if you will, the black space maybe being your room. And we start with, at the beginning, let me just back that up. We start at the beginning of, we're more human size. This is the size of a door, a poster. This is the table with the hat. Oh, and now we are going to be the size of the hat. We're now more the size of the rabbit. And then we can go inside, and now we're inside the hat, and that's the, so we're much a different frame. And establishing the player size, changing the player size is another way to create a moment of magic and wonder. And then that overlays to the player's size, a person's size and scale are amazing, even more amazing. It's a very amazing design tool to use. It's very impactful. So we're putting magic on top of an already impactful mechanic scale to increase that. And then in another example, we can establish this painting is 2D, and then then it becomes 3D. So you can manipulate objects in that inside that 3D painting. So again, we're breaking the frame, and it is not like acts in a stage magician, but you have these little beats going on throughout, which makes the whole experience as a whole feel more magic. So let's talk a little bit about smart glasses. So how could we make AR and AI, smart glasses more magical, and then hopefully, a little bit more fun? Well, there's 3 stages of mixed reality, at least how I interpret it. We have to think about, as you design, we have the first stage, which is these Princess Leia holograms. So you have the virtual content in AR floating somewhere. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. The second one is more of a tabletop experience. So it's anchored to a table, and it itself is a table. It's a virtual table. So we have the Star Wars chest kind of thing going on. And then the third level is more of what we're building, which with Follow the White Rabbit, which is where in the AR episodes, the virtual content, the puzzles are all in the world with the players. So what we want to do is to think about, like, how can we leverage AR and AI to make the smart glasses more magical by establishing the frame of this virtual content, and this the virtual content and the physical content are merged together, and they're solid. There's some rules on that interaction, and then you break that frame to do the impossible. So to get to this stage 3, there's a number of tools which we can talk a little bit, perhaps more in the Q&A. Of basically where you can take you have meshing, so you use the mesh of the real world. You can also anchor content, which is what's happening here. And then you can also segment the world. So this is a door, this is the door, this is a vertical surface, flat surface, and I can put content there. If this is a blank wall behind me, here, then I can put virtual content there, which should be very helpful. And then, but if it's very crowded, I want then the semantic understanding of, like, well, there's actually a real painting there. So maybe just, put your content inside that frame of the real painting, or choose another surface for that content. If the glasses detect a virtual plate of food, that's where I want to put the real plate of food. Then I want to put the virtual vial of poison in the mystery, next to the real plate of food. If the dog comes in, I want the game to respond to the real dog in some way that is helpful. We also have, or that drives the story forward. And so this understanding of the real world is super novel right now, and it's enough to create some of those curiosity, wonder, and surprise responses that magicians are really, really good at. The other technology, like body, head, and hand pose, verbal input, information integration, not just overlay, but like really integrate. It makes it feel like it's really part of the world. So in our second episode with the steel diamond mystery, the fabulous steel diamond necklace has been stolen in the middle of a gala at the British Museum. And it's up to you and your friends to figure out, what happened. And we turn your room gradually into a 20-room Victorian mansion. So we're reskinning your real room in incremental ways, and you have to solve it in your real room. So it isn't just, again, Princess Leia or like an information flat panel floating someplace. It's actually feeling like there's a real fireplace. So there's the virtual bent poker is in the real fireplace, those kinds of things. And that can also be really, really magical. And we get, this is a little bit on hand tracking as I wrap up. This is a different episode on Aladdin's Caves of Wonder. Here we're using finger poses to cast magic spells. So you could use, that's a very magical, not only is it casting magic, but it's also very magical to get that butterfly to, land on your fingers, or perhaps produce smoke by opening your hand, or, grabbing virtual content with your physical hand and having it respond, or sliding virtual objects or puzzles. To make something happen, or simply just trace through the air like tilt brush style is kind of fun. So that's all the time we have for right now. So I want you just to think about like how can you leverage magic, the emotions of magic in AR and AI. Going with two beats. This is the way the world is. So the physical world, people probably know, but this is the way the virtual world works on that physical world. And then this is how the virtual content or the virtual stuff is interacting with that real world in a surprising way to do the impossible, whether it's, translate someone's language into Italian, or as we were talking about before the call, or, you could, you have your little race car run a track like over your couch, or your mystery knows whether it's more fun for your particular group to hide the body under the couch or in the fridge. Those kinds of things can be really, really, really powerful. So in closing, you want to think about novelty, and that this is my favorite quote by Sir Arthur C. Clarke, is any sufficient advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So we have the ability that magic, so with magic, we have the emotions of curiosity, surprise, and wonder. And then we don't show, like how we hide the complexity of the technology and just have an effect that's impossible, that seems impossible. It's impossible with anything that any other kind of technology or any other previous experience that the user has. So again, we need to establish the frame and break it, and then use novelty to tell stories that only AR and AI can bring. So thank you very much, and let's looking forward to questions later in the Q&A, and let's see how magical XR can go.
Thank you, Nicole. It's a pleasure. And now I'm happy to introduce Sofia Domeniconi, business developer and sales representative for Invelon, Italy. Her speech is titled "How Smart Glasses Are Transforming and Improving Industrial Processes." Welcome, Sofia. It's a really pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Cecilia. Well, hi, everyone. First of all, thank you, Cecilia and Antony, for giving me the opportunity to speak at this conference and, represent Invelon. Well, I would like to represent. Okay, perfect. Can you see it? Yes. So, briefly, my name is Sofia Domeniconi, and I'm working as a business developer at Invelon. Invelon is a company specialized in Industry 4.0. So we work closely with the XR ecosystem. We work with virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. We work closely with the main XR brands, as just to give some examples, Pico, HTC, Meta, Vario, etc. And we also stay in contact with the main manager of these XR brands. As Invelon, we are hardware supplier, and we are a software developer. So that means that we do not just have our own catalog of software, but we can create one from zero based on the client's necessity. Well, this is a brief presentation of what we are. Invelon is a part of a Spanish holding, which is specialized also in 3D printing and robotics. But basically, the most important thing is that we work closely in the XR ecosystem. And that's why we also have sometimes the opportunity to try some of the new emerging technologies even before they are launched in the market, as, for example, these smart glasses, which are the main topic of this conference. Well, this is just some partners with who we collaborate, as I was mentioning at the beginning. So the point of my speech is focus my attention on the benefits of the smart glasses in the industrial sector. So why companies should invest on this type of technologies. But before, I would like to give some examples of these smart glasses. So which kind of brand started to invest in these new technologies? So, for example, I think we all know about the smart glasses of Meta in collaboration with the Ray-Ban. Well, with these smart glasses, you can basically listen to the music, you can take photos, you can make videos, you can call someone. But the most innovative thing, in my opinion, is that, for example, you can use the AI system integrated. So by just saying, for these examples, the first few words, which are "Hi Meta," you can ask basically wherever you want. So you can ask, what am I looking at? Or can you translate me this word into Italian, for example? So what I want to say is that you can ask and receive information in a really fast way, thanks to the AI system. But not just Meta, also, for example, the smart glasses of HTC Vive Eagle. Where is the difference in this case? That for me is really important. The difference is that, for example, with these smart glasses of HTC, you can choose wherever AI you want. So you can choose between Gemini or ChatGPT, for example, while with the smart glasses of Meta, you can just have access to the Meta AI. And this is a huge difference that for me is really important, because talking about the industrial sector, I think that smart glasses of HTC are better. Another example is also the smart glasses of Samsung, which are coming up in Europe. Well, I think we all know about that. Did you know also, for example, that Meta developed the display smart glasses? So basically, there are these smart glasses with a tiny display installed on them, where you can basically see pictures, where you can see photos, where you can see instructions in front of you. And this is something really, really innovative. And where is the point of this introduction? Well, the point is that if so many huge companies as the one that I'm mentioning started to invest and develop this type of technologies, that means they could be really, really helpful in our daily lives. Well, I personally tried one of the new smart glasses. I was mentioning at the beginning that as Info, we had the opportunity to try some of the new emerging technologies. So I personally had the possibility to try one of them. So I also would like to give some personal opinion. What really impressed me the most about these smart glasses is first of all, the audio quality. As I was mentioning, you can listen to the music, you can call someone. So imagine I was working, I was looking at the computer while I was listening to while I was calling, for example, a client. So I could still work and listen what the client was telling me to do. So what I want to say is that they're really efficient as a new technologies. Also, what really impressed me was the AI system responsive, which was really fast. I could ask and receive information in a really fast way. And another thing that for me is, of course, really important is the fact that they are really comfortable, because it's like wearing a pair of glasses. So they're really comfortable. The design is also well made, in my opinion. I don't know if someone of you tried the VR headset, so the virtual reality headset. So they are basically made for immersive experience, where you're totally immersive in a virtual world and you cannot see the real world next to you, in front of you. So for some people, they could be a little bit huge and heavy, while the smart glasses are really comfortable, because as I was mentioning, it's like wearing a pair of glasses. Well, the point of my speech, and that's what my focus wants to be, is the benefits of the smart glasses in the industrial sector. So why companies should invest in this type of technologies. And I would like to give some examples so we can all better understand them. Imagine that there is this technical employer who needs to repair a machine, but he doesn't know what to do, or he doesn't know how to do. For example, he doesn't know how the missing piece of the machine looks like, or what is the missing piece of the machine. What he would normally do will be stop working and search information either on the internet or on a manual book. And this is good. Yeah, of course, this is good. But what I want to say is that it took time. So the employer needs to stop working and search information. While imagine the same situation. So imagine that there is the same technical employer with the same problem, but in this case is wearing the smart glasses. So what I want to say is that in this case, it could still be in front of the machine and ask and receive information thanks to the AI system of the smart glasses. So it could ask, for example, can you show me how this missing piece looks like? Or can you show me which pieces fits the machine better? Just to give some examples. What I want to say again is that the employer can still use his sense while searching for information. And this is something really helpful because it reduces time and it improves efficiency. Well, in Italy, there is this expression that says il tempo è oro, which literally means time is gold. So, well, I think the meaning is quite understandable, but time is something really important, especially at work. So time is something that cannot be wasted. And again, in this case, it could be really, really helpful. I would like also to talk about the AR smart glasses, so the augmented reality smart glasses. Augmented reality basically means when you combine virtual reality with the real life. So when, for example, you can see some virtual objects in a real environment. And AR smart glasses are basically made and designed for remote assistance and to improve and help the logistics department, So also in this case, I would like to give some examples. For example, for what concerns the remote assistance, imagine again that there is a technical employer who has a problem and he needs again to repair the machine. He has just the basic knowledge, so he of course needs an expert, so he needs assistance because he doesn't know how to do and let's take into consideration the worst scenario. So let's take into consideration that this expert, that could be even also the manager of the brand of the machine, is located in another side of the country. So it is really far, they are really far from each other. That means that the technical employer needs to pay for his hotel, for his flight, and again, it took time. The cost is very high, the cost could be very high, and another thing that is really important is that if the machine is damaged, that means that the productivity is stopped and the productivity is damaged for that kind of period. So again, imagine in this case that there is the technical employer who is wearing these AR smart glasses. So in this case, he can call directly the expert. So the expert can give him a full remote assistance thanks to the AR smart glasses. Why? Because, for example, the expert can basically say what the technical employer needs to do, thanks again to the AR smart glasses. The expert can, for example, draw a circle, draw a line in the piece of the machine that needs to be repaired. So again, what I want to say is that the technical employer can receive a full remote assistance in a really efficient way without the need to pay for the flights, pay for the rent of the expert, but simply this assistance could be done in a remote way, and this is really efficient. So again, the benefits are that the time is reduced, the cost is of course less, and the productivity is more efficient. So my last examples concerns the logistics department, and this is something for me really important because as in Belon we did something similar. Well, first of all, what is the problem of the logistics department? Especially for the brands who have a huge warehouse. So imagine that there is this huge brand who of course needs to have a huge warehouse where maybe there are a lot of floors, etc., etc. So that means that the employer, the picking employer, sometimes could have difficulty in finding the exact location of the products. And again, it took time to find the direction of the items. Just to take some examples, even in this case, the employers needs to needs to search on the database where the product is, and well, it can take time. So again, imagine that this picking employer are wearing these AR smart glasses, and imagine that they could receive the information, so they could receive the exact location of the products thanks, like in front of them, thanks to the display of their smart glasses. So they can see the direction of the products, they can see the exact location of the products, and this is something that could really improve the efficiency of the logistics. I was mentioning that as Invelon, we did something similar. This is just a case study. As Invelon, we helped Coca-Cola, which is, well, I think one of the brands that, well, everyone knows about. Coca-Cola was one of the first brand who started to invest in the digitalization and the optimization of its logistics. So the problem was, as I was saying, that since the warehouses were so big, the employers had difficulty in finding the location of the items. So as Invelon, we gave the order and we employed the software. So we employed the software on the AR smart glasses, giving the employers the possibility and the accessibility to the possibility to see the direction and the exact location of the items. So they could see the exact location of the products, they could see how many products they were left in the stock. And this again really improve efficiency and productivity. Here I also wrote some of the benefits that we see after this operation. So the picking performance increased a lot, and we gave the ability to provide a real-time information to the employers. Well, I think that I gave my opinion. I try to focus my attention on the real benefits of these smart glasses. Of course, I think that companies need to see the benefit of these smart glasses in a mid-long term. But I think that smart glasses are not just innovative gadgets. They are tools that, if used and invested well, they could be really, really helpful for the industrial sector and could transform, of course, in a better way, of course, in a positive way, the industrial processes. And that could be really, really helpful. So I think that I said all. I want to thank again Cecilia and Antony for giving me the opportunity to speak. And for me, it's a pleasure to meet all the other speakers. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Sophia. It's a really pleasure to have you here. And now I'm honored to introduce AVI BAR-ZEEV, CEO and founder at XR Guild, pioneer from 34 years in XR, artificial intelligence, spatial computing, tech and design, former at Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Disney, consultant, advisor and board member. His speech is titled XR is Becoming Invisible, for better or worse. Welcome, Avi. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I have been working on this stuff for about 35 years now, and I've learned a few things. We've built a bunch of things. We've built the HoloLens, we built Google Earth, we built Apple Vision Pro, and other things that are not public. I think that the thing that I've learned that I want to share with you the most, and by the way, the previous presentations were excellent, and I really want to thank the speakers for providing so much really useful information, because I don't have to go into as much depth and explain some of this stuff. I'm going to spend a little more time on some of the cautions as well as the optimism for the long term, and try to put it all in context, because there's good and there's bad. And I often hear people who are new to this say, Technology is neutral. It's just about how you use it. You can use it for good, or it's like any tool. You can use it for good or bad. And what I've learned in 35 years is that's not true. Technology is not neutral. Doing good with technology requires a lot of work. It requires great care. And the cases where it doesn't come out right are almost always because people didn't take enough time and think hard enough about where things could go wrong. So this is part of what I want to impart to you is why we need to take great care and make sure that we do a good job for everyone's benefit. So this is the way I put it. This is the way St. Augustine put it, if you were to translate it to English. And this whole idea that evil is the absence of good, I think, is a very profound idea. We don't have to get into the religious implications, but it seems fairly evident that if you don't try and set out to do good, what you get through mere carelessness or inaction is often what we describe as evil or harm to people. RuPaul then said, very frankly, hopefully you're all old enough to know who RuPaul is, if not just go Google it. You better work. And that just means you got to actually work your butt off in order to actually make things good. They don't just happen. Good things don't just happen because we have good intentions. So I'm going to show you some examples and try to impress upon you why this becomes so important and why it's important right now. So right now, everyone is excited about AI. XR is not the buzzword anymore. I think the whole notion of Meta taking the term metaverse and running it up the hill and kind of fumbling it is part of the problem, but not the whole problem. People are excited about AI for the positive potential of AI, but people are also pretty scared about it. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those connections. So the first thing is, what is AI really about? Fundamentally, it's about improving how we make things. So reducing the cost, reducing the time in order to make art in some cases, to make things in the case of robots, or even just, in the future, do the housework. These are all about trying, hopefully, to improve the way that we do this thing. Spatial computing is different. It's about trying to extend the human abilities. And so it's much more focused on augmenting the humans. A friend of mine has a book called Augmented Human, which is exactly on this topic. We want to evolve the UX, the user experience, if you don't know what the term is, to make computers serve us in our natural environment and not just force us to adapt to the computer like we have for the last 70 years. So rather than calling it XR, or even I like spatial computing, think of it as augmented perception and interaction. It's very easy to remember because it's API, which is also a computer science term that we use a lot. It's our interface to the world. And it's also important to note that XR has always used AI internally, most notably in the form of computer vision. And really, computer vision was mostly pioneered both in robotics and in XR in order to give computers a better sense of the world. And now you see that, inside of something as trivial as a chatbot. But that technology has been worked on for years in these contexts. And in the flip side, AI uses XR tech as well. So a pair of glasses that have cameras in them that understand the world contextually is an example of XR technology applied to AI. The AI people don't necessarily like to call it XR, but that's the reality of it. The AI part may seem cheap and easy right now because we're not doing the full accounting of all the costs of it yet. For example, they've been able to ingest all of the content that humans have ever created for free without paying anybody for the most part. The Anthropic case is one where they're starting to pay. Those costs have to be borne eventually, if not by the companies, then by us. They don't just go away. And ultimately, AI needs to serve us and not the other way around. And it's certainly not just a few oligarchs. This is a chart that I've liked to use over the years as an alternative to the Gartner hype cycle, which, by the way, they keep editing to make it always correct for today. Rather than just looking at one technology or a bunch of technologies on a curve, I like to look at this in terms of where would we focus our attention. You can see over the years that we have focused on different things. We focused on virtual reality. We focused on the metaverse for a while. You see the hype cycle there. And now the hype cycle is focused on AI, totally understandably. The question is, will there be kind of a bursting of the bubble like there was with the metaverse? I think it's almost inevitable given the valuations and the amount of money being spent that won't be recouped in the short term. But it isn't going to go away. Just like we saw in the late 90s, there was tons of money being poured into fiber optics for the internet. Well, we had the internet bubble. The fiber optic didn't go away. It's just that a lot of investors lost their money, and now it's cheaper. And so the bubble bursting is a good thing overall, not good for the investors who put their money in, but good for the world, because it tends to get rid of some of the hype, but it also tends to bring the cost down for everybody else and to equalize the technology a little better. So somewhere AI is right now the future of everything, but it may become the future of work. It may very well be ingrained in everything we do, but it's certainly, as far as we're concerned, not going to replace our reality. Humans need to come first. So Meta is kind of at the center of this, both on the AI side and the XR side. So I like to talk about them a lot. The reason that I talk about them so much is not because I hate them. It's actually I want to help them. I want them to be better, and they seem to keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And for some reason, they're not learning from history. And so I really want them to do well. I want them to serve humanity. They're right now trying very hard to have their glass hole moment, as far as I can tell. Google Glass, if you weren't around, came out around 2013, 2014, and had this giant blowback in popular feelings because they kind of blew it. They marketed it as this only for beautiful people. Of course, people like me were the ones who would wear them. They had people jumping out of airplanes, doing fun, cool things. And in the meanwhile, people were very concerned about the privacy invasions, bad social power dynamics, and they got a lot of bad press. Well, Meta's doing the exact same thing. They literally have people jumping out of airplanes in their commercials. Beautiful people doing cool, fun things. And the privacy invasions and the bad power dynamics are all coming to light now with some stories that I'll share with you. And there's even been cases of glasses being ripped off people's faces and broken because they didn't consent to being captured. So we're going to see what happens over the next year or so. Are they going to have a blowback? My sense is that Meta doesn't really care, that they're just going to plow ahead anyway, because they've had plenty of controversies. So they're just going to put more money into PR and blow through it. But we're going to see a lot of pushback. So here's a couple of examples. This is the most recent one. Came out just a couple of weeks ago this week on LinkedIn. It hit. The glasses apparently have been left on for even for the wearers. So the privacy light is clearly not working, even for the owners of the glasses. And there is examples of contractors working for Meta who have been able to see people undressing, people having sex, credit card numbers of the owners. And that's not to mention the owners wearing them and capturing other people, which we'll talk about in a second. So my point is not just to complain about this. I've been working in this field for so long that I know what some of the solutions are. The solution to this particular problem that Meta could implement very cheaply is end-to-end encryption. The crypto keys would be owned by the consumer. So you know how you type in your PIN on your phone? That's your key. And if you own an iPhone, then that means if you encrypt your phone using a key like that, using a PIN, that your content is protected. And even Apple engineers can't see your content unless you give them access, right? Which is bad. If you lose your PIN, it's hard for them to recover it for you. And really the main concern is if you don't encrypt your backups, then those are accessible to somebody who has access to those. But in general, the iPhone is very safe. Meta needs to do the same thing and end-to-end encrypt the content so that their employees and contractors cannot see it. So another controversy is that Meta was revealed to want to do Face ID with the glasses. And this is incredibly dangerous. They even said, if you read the quote on the right, they want to wait until there's a dynamic political environment where civil society groups, so they wouldn't have any blowback. They wanted to wait until they could sneak this in and nobody would notice. And that's another problem. If they implement this, and when they do, because it's almost inevitable they will, they're going to be able to use the glasses, especially if they can record all the time, to track where everyone is. If they can identify you out in public anywhere, they can track not just the wearer, but anybody they see if they can recognize their face. And they can use that to build up a model of who says what, where they go, what they do. It's the missing piece that they don't have. After they've tried to monetize all of our activity online, they want to do the same thing in the real world. There's another solution for this one. The glasses should only be able to ID people who have given their explicit consent for their biometrics to be used. In other words, if I'm wearing the glasses and I walk up to you, you can give me consent using your phone, using a gesture, whatever we want. We can come up with simple ways to give consent. And then that your face, the compressed version of your face would only be stored on that pair of glasses. It would never be uploaded. It wouldn't work anywhere else. And it would only work for people who consented. And as a bonus, we can finally solve this question of capturing bystanders who didn't consent. The answer is just only capture everybody, but blur them all or remove them or use generative AI to replace them with people who look different than they do, and only show the people who exactly as they are if they've given consent. So your friends, your family, all that stuff you'll be able to take great pictures, but all the people who you don't know who didn't consent will be protected. They could implement this very shortly too. I wish somebody would show it and prove it out at scale, because it seems like it's the way to solve all these issues with Face ID, and Face ID would not be a controversy if we were to do that. All right, so here's some couple of slides just on use cases, just to show you some of the positives. So for the consumer use cases, I think what we're going to see is enough blowback around the invasions of privacy that we're going to have the concept of a privacy shield, that the AI and the glasses have to be on your side. They have to be working for you. And that means your glasses are essentially helping you to keep your private information on the inside and not exposed to the world. Another one, I think Nicole mentioned Star Wars holograms. Co-presence is going to be big, but only when everybody has glasses. It's very, if you're the first person who has a telephone, you have no one else to call. So we need to have enough of a saturation of the quantity of devices. And then we're going to start to talk to each other the same way that we already text to each other today and message each other. We're going to see more face-to-face interactions virtually, which is going to be a much better user experience. And then finally, the main consumer role there is the external memory. But again, for the people and the information that's consented, it's going to be a great use case once it's made safe. And that's the main reason I complain about the bad use cases, is because I want to do the good ones. And I don't want people to be jaded against the good ones just because the bad ones have skewed their perceptions. So as Sophia really did a great job of saying some of the industrial commercial use cases, she was talking a lot about the see what I see expert scenarios. The co-presence, I think, is going to be big for virtual meetings as well. And for work, the external memory also is going to be incredibly important. Those are real use cases that are going to be super valuable. One of the reasons I talk about this is because we started a group called the XR Guild. We work with AWE a lot, and we're an organization for people working in this space who care about ethics. We'd love you to come join and share your ideas. We have a set of principles, and we are trying to educate everybody as to the best use cases and the best ways to implement these. And finally, I want to leave you with a couple of items of fiction. You all know about Snow Crash and Ready Player One, I'm sure, but these are 3 examples of things that you may not know. True Names was one of the first virtual worlds stories, not the first. The Velt came first. There are a few others that are very interesting. And actually, if you want to get into the history of this, on the XR Guild website, there's a thing called the visual timeline of XR that lets you explore the entire timeline. But these are just 3 examples. Denyu Coil is a Japanese anime that I highly recommend watching for understanding imagination, anyway, it's fiction, about how kids are going to interact with all-day, everyday wearable glasses that they have on all the time. And this goes to Nicole's point about magic in the world. These kids are immersed in a world of magic, and they don't even have the framework to understand the difference between reality and magic. So they create a giant mythology around it. And it's an incredibly interesting story for anybody working in the field. You get a lot out of it. And finally, rather than reading Snow Crash, which is fine, I think it's a good book, but Diamond Age, apart from the nanotech, which hasn't happened yet that much, the Young Ladies Illustrated Primer is a great example of how AI will permeate our lives. It's a book that has all the knowledge of humanity embedded in it. And it's a great, great story about how that world plays out. So I'll leave you there, and then we'll jump into questions in a second. And thank you for listening.
So thank you, Avi. Thanks, everyone. So now it's time for a little debate. So I call back all the speakers on stage so we can have a little conversation about glasses and these new technologies. So maybe, Nicole, I start from you. You explained a lot about magic, mixed reality, etc. And now, there is a lot of hype about smart glasses and AR glasses. And I want to ask you if you ever thought about what can be some use case for consumers. So not only maybe both on something can be useful and something that can elicit emotions in them. So what's your thought about what we can really do with these smart glasses?
Great. Well, I think that we need to address, of course, the privacy issues that Avi so aptly brought up. and that I mean, well, I'm a game developer, so consumers, I mean, I want to play. So the ability to have like, virtual pets and play, in the real room, I think is really are some really great use cases. Getting on the consumer side, being able to do the live translation. Nothing I saw at CES though really had the timing where it could flow really easily, and then nothing was super visually distracting. You couldn't get back and forth, and it doesn't. That loop really has not closed yet. But I think we're still, other than on the game space, I think we're still looking for it. One of our other games was fun. It was just using head pose, though, on a smart glass, the Bose AR ones. And they had an IMU, a motion sensor. So we basically created a choose your own adventure you could play walking around the block. And so you could walk around the block, you could walk around the park, you could just bounce around in your living room, or just even in a wheelchair you could play. So I think there's a really, really, really great use case for smart glasses to have for exercise and activities. I think that's really going to be really going to be great. You could also set up some private channels, private talking, between people. And I think there could be some really interesting use cases there, where you're able to communicate with your friends, distant or even in a crowded room, in a way that's more than possible. Avi's framing of let's give people superpowers. That's exactly why I'm in the XR industry. So that's my thoughts.
Well, amazing thoughts as usual. So Sophia, you spoke about some very interesting use cases about glasses in enterprise, and I want to ask you even more. So what are all the use cases you've seen, and what are the requests you see more often from companies that approach Imbelon wanting to use glasses of various kinds?
Well, okay, thank you, Antony. Well, yeah, I mentioned in my speech the use cases for the remote assistant, which is really important, and the use cases of the logistics, which is also very important. Another use cases could be also the training part. So imagine that some employers need to be trained, and again, maybe there is no an expert, there is no a person who in this case could actually help this employer. So what we could normally do will be also trying to create this software in order to like, for example, improve the training assistance of the employers. This is just an example. Or as in Bologna, we receive also a lot of requests about the education part. So some case studies about how we can help improve technologies into the schools, or for example also about the cultural part. So how we can help museums with, for example, the audio quality of the assets. So yeah, other use cases could be, as I was mentioning, the training experience, the educational part, the cultural part, and yeah, that is.
Okay. I think you said a lot of them. Very interesting. So, Avi, I said the one question I wanted to ask, and also other people want to ask about glasses and privacy, but I guess you already said a lot in the presentation. But I want to ask you one specific question about this, because there is a lot of speaking about for instance opt-in, about giving data, stuff like that. But the thing that I think is super tricky about glasses is also that it's not only about you, like with the phone, but also about the others, because maybe I'm fine with sharing information with Meta, etc., when I'm wearing glasses, but maybe I'm with you and you are not fine with that. So how can we solve this conundrum? Because in a way, it's easy to ask the user, but you cannot ask all the people around you. So are there any strategies that can help with that?
Yeah, definitely. That came up recently. If you watched the Super Bowl in the United States, there was an ad by Amazon for this feature they thought was really cool that would use all your video doorbells, so all the cameras on the front of your house, to find a lost dog. And this is a great feature. But the reality is that everybody realized immediately that, wait a minute, the owner of the house has decided to use their camera to send data to some some entity that's figuring out where the dog is, they could use that to find people that send ICE after them for deportations and all the other stuff that's going on. It's a very dangerous technology. And so people are getting aware of that it's not just the owner consenting to having their camera used, in the same way that people wearing the glasses, they may be fine with it because they feel really cutting edge and want to wear the glasses, but it's everybody around them. And what you saw with Google Glass was, when I say social power dynamic, what I mean is there is a normal thing that happens between two or more people, that they interplay, that they interact with each other. If one person tries to dominate the other person, it makes them at least very uncomfortable at first. And it can cause a fight. It can cause a real problem if people are trying to get power over each other. And it's not that it doesn't happen, but it's a very bad social situation. And when the glasses give the wearer all that power to not just take pictures, but to look up information about us, to identify our face and pull up our Instagram account, it creates insecurity, and that causes people to get punched in the face. Like, that's why people reacted to glass the way they did. It wasn't just the privacy aspect of it. It was the social power balance. And that's why you saw in New York, a woman took a person wearing the Ray-Bans and broke the glasses because that person didn't want to be filmed. You'll see more and more of that as this becomes more pervasive. And it doesn't require everybody to try to act like a jerk. It just requires a few people to act like jerks, and everybody gets very sensitive about it. So the solution is consent. To answer your question, the solution is, let's make sure that we're in a society where we don't assume that everybody's okay with what we're doing just because we're okay with it. We have to ask. And what I was suggesting about the way that the cameras can work on the glasses is they can actually use Face ID in a positive way to make sure that only the people who have consented, our friends, our family, even our children we've consented for, they can be captured normally on our glasses. But in someone else's glasses, they don't have consent. And so my kids won't show up on your glasses unless I gave you explicit consent. And I won't show up on your glasses unless I gave you explicit consent. So moving to a model of consent is way better than moving to a tiny little privacy light that even the owners don't notice is on. Obviously, if they're being captured naked, they didn't notice the light was on. So we just have to change the model. And I think it's going to probably require laws. I don't think the companies are going to do it voluntarily, but we'll see different countries, I think, enact their own laws. The reason that Google Street View, remember the cameras on the trucks that were driving around, capturing everything, because of Germany's privacy laws, faces got blurred everywhere. So Google decided it was just cheaper and easier to blur all faces because you're not using Street View to find people mostly. You're using it to find landmarks and directions. Faces didn't matter. The companies capturing images from the glasses need to also understand that this matters and that consumers want it, and eventually they'll do it, or they'll be forced to do it.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Avi. So, Nicole, I just want to ask you another thing is, you have all these wonderful, strategies to create emotions, etc., and in AR, in MR, etc. And one thing that disappointed me a bit is that mixed reality. I was a big believer in mixed reality with Quest, etc., and actually kind of flopped because we don't have a super, the Beat Saber or mixed reality or something like that. Do you have your idea why this is happening and if this may change in the future?
Oh yeah, that's a big topic. I did want to piggyback on Avi's point just right now, just because he brought up the Google example, the Google Maps thing, which I think is great, Street View. Also, in addition to faces, they also blur out license plates. Mm-hmm. And you can actually get your home blurred out. So you can actually go up onto Google Maps and say, no, don't want this there. And you can do that. And also several very important archaeological places are also blurred out. Anyway, but yeah, back to mixed reality. So I think a couple of things are there. I should be clear what I've done with Follow White Rabbit as we're soft launch now on the Apple Vision Pro, which has 4K per eye. And that was a big reason for that, is that the higher resolution. So with 1K per eye or 2.3K per eye, which are some of the other, kind of the Quest line. We had the Quest Pro, which was pretty good, but not 4K. Or not a Galaxy XR or the new Pico Swan thing that just got announced last week. So we need to have that resolution for seeing real pixels come in and make it believe that I'm in that room, because otherwise I'm looking at a security camera of my room, right? Also monocular. Some of the earlier Quest mixed reality was monocular and not binocular, so that was a challenge. We did a launch title for Trip on the MetaQuest Pro. But anyway, yeah, so I think that the resolution has to be really good on one hand, but also you have to think about what were the things that really worked in mixed reality that people wanted to do. Why the XR industry as a whole is struggling, if you look at the four keys to fun, which is in the background there, is we're really good at that Arthur C. Clarke thing, which is like creating that first impression of novelty and wonder, like, oh my gosh, magic, right? That window is a novelty window, and we've seen that in the testing that we've done. We've worked on games like Star Wars and The Matrix and Diner Dash and The Mist and stuff like that. There's a window of time, it's about 15 minutes, that I could get you to do anything. People will just pretty much do anything. But to get you to go beyond that, right, and then requires something. And to get you to put the headset or the game in the second time, play a second time, more. So there are these mechanics that things to do. And I'm not talking about gotchas or any of the slot machine stuff. It's more like real stuff. And I think we're still at that very first novelty window in the examples that we've done, a lot of the work we've done. We've also worked on some of the Galaxy XR content as well. We're kind of still pretty much at the pick up and put down, and it anchors pretty well, right? You pick up and put down kind of like the building blocks. So if you think about play, Piaget's theory of play, we can, build something up. And of course, it's much more fun to knock it down. But we don't have, and we could do like an existing thing, like a tower defense game, and put it on the table, and we can have like little things or tower defense in our living room. But that's a genre that's getting ported from flat screen here. So we don't have very many really good native XR experiences overall. Beat Saber is very popular. But then not only XR at all, but then like in mixed reality, you're going to have something that's really, really unique. And so we've been working for several years now to get the AR version of Follow the White Rabbit to understand the room and to feel good, the game mechanic to feel good in the room. So to sum up, I think there's two things. One is that the technology, we don't have enough semantic understanding. the YOLO ML model is great because it's got like, I forgot, like 200, I think, in the SDK right now. Apple's machine learning is pretty good, but there's a real challenge right now with Vision Pro to access the pixels so I can tag things like, fireplace and plate of food and that sort of thing. So there's a technology side, and then there is like, okay, now that we have the tech, how can we create an experience that isn't just, that's magical at the beginning, so I try it, curiosity, that hook that pulls you in, but then I need the second key, which is a clear goal, achievable steps, challenge, obstacles, strategy, to in game mechanics to move myself forward. So it's really novel that I could repair a car in mixed reality with smart glasses, but then am I going to want to make a Subway sandwich with a piece of flat thing in front of my face all day? It's like, probably not. So I think there's a lot of really good design needs to happen, and use cases that really go in. If you know the original ubiquitous computing and pervasive computing, if you look at those Mark Weiner, those original research papers, it's a really good primer for like what we're trying to do. That's from I think that's from the 60s or the 80s, somewhere like that.
Oh, amazing answer, very detailed. Thanks, Nicole. So, Sophia, a little question for you. We have currently a clear market leader in smart glasses, which is Meta, also thanks to a very smart partnership with EssilorLuxottica. But there are also incumbents like Apple, like Google, and also a lot of startups coming from all the parts of the world, many from China. Do you think there is still an opportunity for the others, let's say, to surpass Meta, or this partnership with Luxottica, which looks like an exclusive partnership, is going to take it always to be the leader in the market? What do you think?
Well, no, I think that other companies could have the opportunity to surpass Meta. I mean, I think, Meta is one of the huge XR brands. We all know about Meta, but we also know that, market is free, so it's full of competitors. We have the free and the right to be and to start and to be an entrepreneur, of course, behind laws, behind limitation, etc., etc. But what I want to say is that I really think that other companies, other XR companies, as you mentioned, ACC, Samsung, or the other XR companies could develop and invest and could develop a product that could be even better than the one of Meta. Just to take some examples, I mentioned in my speech the fact that, for example, the smart glasses of HTC gives the people the possibility to choose wherever AI they want to use. So this is something that for me is better instead of just choose and use the AI of Meta. So I think that other companies have the possibility to surpass Meta because the market is free and the market is full of competitors who can like develop out products that can be better.
That's very interesting. So Avi, just to close this debate, I would like to speak with you for hours, but the time is already up. We talked a lot about the privacy and the risk implication of glasses, etc. But I think one of the good things instead of these technologies that can also help with accessibility, and I guess it's one theme you love, considering you're part of the XR Guild. Can you maybe give your thoughts about the accessibility use of smart glasses and AR glasses?
Absolutely. There's so many great examples. And you have the visually impaired people who will be able to use the cameras and glasses to be able to describe things that they're seeing. You have, for people who are hearing impaired, the ability to add subtitles. There's things that can add an incredible amount of value, but those are very well-known use cases. There are other more subtle use cases that can help everybody anywhere. A lot of people might have what in the US we call it attention deficit disorder. You might have to name for it, but people who might have hyperactivity. You can imagine future glasses that are actually tuned to your mood. This is one of the reasons why it's so important to get the privacy part right, because there's so many positive things we can do as long as we're not being exploitive. Imagine glasses that are aware of your internal state as to whether you're in a high functioning state, low functioning state. And even if all they had was a little red light to show you biofeedback, to help you understand your state, we could help people maintain a sort of even keel and interaction with in the world that would help everybody. It would help me. I don't have ADHD, I have other issues, but if I were getting upset, it would tell me to shut up and not say the bad thing that I'm about to say. Like, you could imagine these things being a very important way to improve our social interactions with other people, as long as they're not being exploitive. So I'm very big on all the positive use cases, but they all tend to be very potentially invasive. They need to know a lot about us, and they can also trick us in various ways. So we need to be able to trust the technology to store our information and also to not exploit us in any way. So those are the things that drive me the most, to make sure that this is beneficial to everyone.
Well, and I totally agree with you. As I said, unluckily the time is up, but really thank you all for the talks and the debate. It was all amazing. I learned a lot from all of you. So I say goodbye to everyone. Also, Cecilia, I guess you have some final words for all of us.
Thank you all, and thank you, Antony, thank you, Nicole, thank you, Sophia, and thank you, Avi. Thank you all for being here with us today. AWE USA 2026 will be at the Long Beach Convention Center in California from 15 to 18 June, primarily as an in-person conference and also with an online element. See you soon at the next AWE Nite Florence event. And bye-bye.